Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, presented by Superbook Sports. Taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm so excited for this weekend. Obviously, Buffs taking on Oregon. We're going to get into that. Is it a trap game for the Miami Dolphins as the Broncos head down there to the hot and humid state of Florida? It's a good question. We'll get into that. Cecil Lamb is going to be joining us as well, giving you guys fantasy tips as you look ahead to week 3. And then Andrew Mason is also going to join us. Is Justin Simmons going to be listed as questionable on the injury report today? That's going to be a major question that everybody has. I also have a question for you guys before we get into the show. Good morning to everybody in the comments. Appreciate it. I do want to know, though, I'm headed up to Steamboat Springs this weekend. I've never been before. I'm really excited to do it. If you guys have been up to Steamboat Springs, please leave some recommendations in the comments so I know like where we should go, where we should watch the Buffs game on Saturday. I'm looking for that information, and you guys always deliver the best stuff. Hey, Rachel, great stuff out at Avs training camp here at Denver Sports. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that, Mel. Lots of good stuff. I see your comment. All of it was way more interesting than Val's personal life. Well, that's obviously been the big conversation as of recent. Everybody's been wanting to know the full story. Valeri Nichushkin did speak to the media yesterday for the first time since he left the team ahead of Game 3 in Seattle. And he essentially said, you know what? We've talked about it. It was a personal family reason. I'm just looking forward to moving on and looking ahead to the season. He feels ready to go. Jared Bednar spoke and said, you know, when they've had conversations, it was about checking in on him, how he's training, how he trained this summer, like making sure he's in a good headspace too, because that's obviously all very important. And then, yes, of course, the game news. It's really good that he's still going to be listed as the captain. I feel like that's super underappreciated almost a little bit. I saw a comment on Twitter that was like, who cares? It's a big deal. Gabriel Landeskog has been the captain since 2012. And the fact that he may not play this season and is still getting the C, that's massive news, you guys. Good morning. Hello from Meade, Colorado. Is it Ask Me Anything Friday? Sure. Ask us anything. You can ask Cecil. You can ask Mace. You can ask me absolutely anything you want. Happy to do it. I'm honestly just in like a very chatty mood today. So I'm down to talk. Give me what you guys are feeling. Let's see. More comments coming in. Hopefully more shows like yesterday. Yes, for sure. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. We're excited. I was actually just telling one of our producers here at Denver Sports, essentially, it's crazy. I'm like, I don't know if my brain can fit in Nuggets, Avs, Buffs, and Broncos. I'm like, there's so much good stuff going here that we like, of course, want to give the absolute best reporting to everybody. I do want to get into the Buffs. So really quick before we have Cecil join, you guys, why in the world would Shedeur Sanders leave CU to go to the NFL? One of the main reasons that players go to leave from college to go to the NFL is so that they can get their paydays. Shedeur is projected to make $10 million if he stays and goes or continues to attend CU next year. $10 million in NIL deals. That's absolutely insane. We already know he does, I believe, Beats by Dre. He's got a deal with a Tom Brady clothing line. He's doing like his own line with that. I know there's a couple other like Mercedes-Benz. I think he's also doing. You guys, $10 million. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. So why would you go to the NFL? The college atmosphere is, to be honest, way more exciting than the NFL. You're king of campus right now if you're going up to CU. Why would you leave? If you're Shedeur Sanders, let me know in the comments too. I am like dying to know. If you were Shedeur Sanders, would you want to go into the NFL knowing that you could make $10 million from the NIL deal? That's just mind-blowing to me. I honestly can't even imagine. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Also, somebody's saying Denver so far is a huge letdown this year. At least we have the Nuggets to look forward to. You guys, how is Denver a huge... Are you just talking about the Broncos? If so, I agree with that, but you have to look at everything going on in the state of Colorado. College football is ruined. Sanders isn't NFL material. You guys are throwing out some harsh comments here. Why isn't Sanders NFL material? He looks like a mixture of Patrick Mahomes, a little bit of Josh Allen in there, I think, or maybe Joe Burrow a little bit more than Josh Allen. He looks like a mixture of those two. the way that he's able to escape from defenders, I haven't seen anything like it at the college level. It's actually kind of crazy. Like, he just steps out of guys' grasp, and it always amazes me. I just can't believe it. I want players to be hungry to get paid in the NFL. I don't like the NIL. Interesting. Here's the thing. When you go to the NFL, it's no longer about you to a degree. And universities make so much money off of college players, you guys. I feel as if you have to give them something. I don't mind the NIL deals. Influencers are super popular nowadays. If you're able to capitalize on the market that you have created for yourself, then go for it. Look at what Deion Sanders has done for the University of Boulder. They're projected $90 million that has already come into the University of Colorado. $90 million. That's going to include Prime's payday in there, no problem. I think he's guaranteed like $29 million. The university, before he started, said that they didn't have the money, but they weren't worried because they knew that the money was going to come. And guess what? The money has come, and it's only been 3 weeks that they've played college football. $90 million has already come in for the university. You don't see that if Sports Center's not coming out, Game Day's not coming out, Big Noon Kickoff's not coming out for how many weeks now? You guys, it's crazy. Like, it's insane the amount of money. Think about what you could do with $10 million as a 20-year-old. I don't even think Shadur Sanders is 21 yet, and he's able to just live his life. $10 million. That's not even touching his dad's money, obviously. Shiloh Sanders is bringing in different deals. Travis Hunter is bringing in deals. They're all bringing in deals to the University of Colorado. It's massive for them. It's massive for the university. $90 million that Prime has brought in. Just think about that number in 3 weeks. Just think about that for a quick second. Absolutely crazy. Somebody else having another thing saying they get paid by free education. How many people who are in debt with student loans would like to have that? I used to be on this bandwagon, okay? I used to be like, you know what? You're getting paid a free education. It's crazy. Student athletes put in a lot of work, you guys. It is a full-time job, if not more. You don't really get the full college experience if you are a student athlete. I used to work in student athletics, so I totally have kind of paid attention to this. And it's very true. You do not get the same experience in college. It's a full-time job. So I think if you're able to market yourself, do it to the best of your ability. I honestly love that you guys, some people hate it, some people don't like it. We can ask Cecil Lammy here in just a second if he's a big fan of the NIL deals. But of course, we got to first get to Cecil's Fantasy 5 presented by Hooters, because honestly, I don't even know what to do at fantasy at this point. Cecil Lammy, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I am doing fantastic. How are you?
I am good. I want to quickly, before we get into this Fantasy 5 stuff, how do you feel about NIL deals? Lots of people in the comments are saying they absolutely hate them. Some people saying, I don't really care.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, if they can get paid, they're getting paid one way or the other.
Yep.
All right, you either want the gold Trans Am for Eric Dickerson, flashback to the 80s, Rachel, because I'm old, but like, you're either going to get I don't know how he got that gold Trans Am. I don't know how Reggie Bush got whatever they gave him. Like, so either you pay him one way or you pay him up front another way with deals and commercials and Caleb Williams on Wendy's or whatever. Like, yeah, baby. Like, it's just, get them paid. They're going to get paid one way or the other.
Exactly. At least we see it up front now. All right. Cecil's Fantasy Guy presented by Hooters. Cecil, what sleepers you got for me this week? Because I'm very curious. You always throw out some names that I'm like, I never thought about picking that person up.
Yeah, and everyone's looking for sleepers at the wide receiver position because, well, you're kind of not happy with some of the ones that you have up top. So I will give you Rashid Shaheed from the New Orleans Saints. He does good things. He's a big play player, and he's a player that every single week is going to kind of creep up on you, sneak up on you a little bit. Look at what Houston is doing. Yes, I know CJ Stroud's still on the injury report, a little bit of a shoulder thing, but you saw Nico Collins do good things. Don't forget about Robert Woods in that passing game there as well. So he's kind of in that sleeper level there as well. I'll go a little bit further down the list in terms of sleepers. Look for what Jacksonville is doing. If no Zay Jones, and we're waiting for the injury report on Friday, if Zay Jones doesn't play, then you've got Christian Kirk, who could do a little bit more. Obviously, Calvin Ridley, who you're already starting, is doing good things there as well. And put a pin in what's going on in Indianapolis with Josh Downs, their rookie receiver. People are excited about him. He hasn't done much to this point. this could be the week, kind of waiting for a breakout there. Also waiting to see if Anthony Richardson could actually play. Again, waiting for the Friday injury report. So yeah, you've got definite sleepers at the wide receiver position. That one's easy. Gets a little more complicated when you talk about tight ends, who everybody's desperate for, unless you have Travis Kelce or George Kittle or Mark Andrews. So yeah, the sleepers abound this week because we're almost at the point, Rachel, where we figure out, okay, this is who teams are. 3 weeks in, we're going to figure out this is who teams are. First couple of weeks, we're just kind of guessing. Weeks 3 and 4, more concrete answers.
The identity of the team. Okay, you bring up good names at the wide receiver position. Are you jumping on the bandwagon to pick up Marvin Mims? And could you anticipate him having a big game as we anticipate the Broncos to be throwing a lot against Miami?
Yeah, and they have to be, because you're going to have to do that against Miami unless you try to slow them down, but they haven't shown a commitment to the ground game. So Mims is in that sleeper range there as well. And we've seen it, like it's the 2 catches, it's 100 yards, it's a touchdown. It's the big play threat. He's the dangerous one. And Sean Payton has to get to a point where he trusts the kids, because those are the guys that can make the plays. I'll say the same thing at the linebacker position. We love Alex Singleton. He maybe has better hair than I do, maybe, but
Let's
know
see
that
it. Fluff it up a little. See? Oh yeah, loving it.
There you go. Bring it back to 80s. So like Alex Singleton had that dropped interception. Like Drew Sanders probably catches that. You know what I mean? Like Sanders did that all the way through practice, all the way through training camp. So that's something to watch. The Marvin Mims things, Jaleel McLaughlin. Like it's time to trust the young players if you're Sean Payton, because you're staring at 0-3, and that's not where anybody wanted this team to be.
No, absolutely. Is there any games that you think could absolutely be a trap game for some players this weekend?
As far as like, just look out, don't start them, something like that.
Yeah, essentially you're just like, I mean, they could possibly have a decent game, but you could probably find somebody else better on the market.
Yeah, and I would say this, there's just a few situations to watch. I'm not necessarily sure about trap games per se, but I'm watching what's going on in Pittsburgh with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren looks better. Jaylen Warren is better. And we hate to say that because Najee was a first rounder and all that sorts of thing. But if you're looking at your Pittsburgh backfield and maybe you got one or the other, you're probably not starting Najee. They're going up against the Raiders. It's on the road in Vegas. And you might be starting Jaylen Warren instead. When that shift happens and they switch, much like Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, when those two were together with the Cowboys, we saw it for about 3 years, honestly, like Pollard's better. When are they going to get it done? So I'm watching those type of situations. The Baltimore backfield, we may see a Melvin Gordon sighting this weekend because everybody's hurt. J.K. Dobbins out for the year. Now Justice Hill is out. I'm not sure if it's for the year or not. So Gus Edwards steps up, but he's been known to get banged up. And there's Melvin Gordon right behind him. So there's some situations that, A.J. Dillon, we're seeing like, don't start him, even if there's no Aaron Jones, although Jones should be back this week. But if not, don't start Dillon. We're seeing some things kind of work themselves out again as we get further into the fantasy season.
All right, Cecil. The Broncos are 0-2. What if you're 0-2 on your fantasy team? Are you telling people pump the brakes, don't panic yet, there's still lots of time? Or are you saying you better win this week, otherwise you can kiss the playoffs goodbye?
Well, and yeah, I'd say in fantasy, like 0-2 is a death knell in the National Football League. 0-2 in fantasy, you got plenty of time. So keep going at it. And that's the fun thing about it. I think the more active you are, it's not just set it and forget it like it used to be. I've been playing fantasy since 1993. It used to be set it and forget it and set your lineup and wait for the paper on Monday. Now I'm really dating myself. Wait for the paper on Monday so you can run the box scores and see who won in your fantasy leagues. No, stay active, work the waiver wire, start throwing out trades, start making trades. Like there are ways to turn things around. And then you get about halfway, you're not doing real well. We'll just keep playing spoiler because that's also fun as well.
Cecil, who's your quarterback in fantasy? I feel like you have a bunch of leagues, so give me one.
Give me my favorite quarterback or my quarterbacks.
Your quarterback.
Well, I did have Aaron Rodgers in one of my main leagues, and that has gone quickly bye-bye. I did put a lot of stock in Justin Fields. Oh my God, has that been terrible? But the quarterbacks we all know, of course, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, or whatever. But like that's where you have to be ready. I didn't think in these leagues that I had Rodgers or had Fields. I felt like I was good to go. And now, especially with Fields, because we know Rodgers is done, like I'm looking at other options. I'm looking to try to find someone else. Can I make a deal for Daniel Jones? Like this is what it looks like with Fields. Unless he turns around, people in that building tell me lots of stuff. The stuff I'll say is like Fields can get it. He's just frustrated being a robot and what they're asking him to do right now.
Okay, so is it just coaching or is it him being stubborn?
I think it's coaching, not trusting him.
Okay.
You know, and at the end of the day, it's both. Is it the quarterback or is the coach? It's both. It always is. Was it Belichick or Brady? It's always both. So Fields, let the coaches trust him and you'll see better play.
Cecil, as always, appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much. Happy Friday. Cecil's Fantasy 5 presented by Hooters. All right, everybody. Andrew Mason's going to join us here in a little bit, but we have to get into this graphic real quick. NFL teams' records in their last 162 regular season games laid out like MLB standings. The Broncos obviously down in the AFC West, 79 and 83. Wow. Okay. Interesting because, and first of all, I need to give a shout out to Richie Carney because he's the one that actually sent this to me this morning. And it's so fascinating because the Broncos have been so bad that essentially it has completely wiped all the success that Peyton Manning had here. Like that is how bad the Broncos have been the past couple of years. And we keep saying the past couple of years. You guys, we're talking 7 seasons at this point. It's kind of crazy. Again, I just want to go back to this. 79 and 83. This was a team that had been absolutely dominant. And I feel like people are beginning to trash. We saw like that Tony Jones Jr. comment. I don't remember from which player from the Colts said it, but he was like, this ain't Denver anymore. People are starting to trash the Denver Broncos name. And for a team that has been absolutely legendary for so many years, it's kind of shocking to see that there's so much disrespect being thrown on the Denver Broncos name. And I get it. They've been bad. They've been rolling through quarterbacks. But I feel like the real disrespect came when they brought in the superstar that is Russell Wilson and things still just went bad. And I, as somebody who grew up loving the Denver Broncos and somebody that was jumping on the sports bandwagon and wanting to be in this industry because of the Denver Broncos, I can't believe the disrespect that's coming out of people's names. This is a franchise that has had legendary quarterbacks, that has done crazy things. We're not talking, and this means no disrespect at all, we're not talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Houston Texans or anything of that nature. This is the Denver Broncos who are now being thrown around like they're just a screw it kind of team. And I can't believe it. I can't believe the disrespect. And I know Russell Wilson was supposed to come in here and change the culture. And I know Sean Payton was supposed to come in here and change the culture and be the saving grace. And this week is a must-win game for the Denver Broncos. Otherwise, all things go out the window. Essentially, Russell Wilson's not going to be the quarterback of the Denver Broncos next year. Whether you want him to or not, answer that question in the comments. It's essentially going to just be like, well, all right, that's it. Russ is not going to be here next year. They're going to look to draft a quarterback. And that means we're going to have many more years of this kind of crap that we're seeing. And I'm sorry, you're not going to draft a rookie QB and things are going to come in and turn out to be fantastic. I feel like Sam Howell is kind of the exception right now of just like, oh, well, they're actually starting to have some success. It's really upsetting as a Denver Broncos fan. And I feel you, Broncos country, on this. I want to read the comments. I feel this. The reason is too many mistakes and bad drafts. I 100% agree. Somebody says, we are the Cleveland Browns. We are not the Cleveland Browns yet, everybody. There is still so much history and legacy out of this Denver Broncos team. We are not the Cleveland Browns. We can't do that. No, we cannot even put that name on there. That's what happens when you don't hire Kyle Shanahan. One bad decision can ruin a franchise for years. Okay, I see you, everybody. I get it. I understand that we're frustrated. I also understand that as we'll look at this real quick because we, of course, want to get our very own Andrew Mason's take on this. Andrew Mason, good morning. The Broncos over the last 162 regular season games are 79 and 83, and people are starting to trash the Denver Broncos. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm great, Rachel. How are you? People are just beginning to trash the Denver Broncos. I think it's been going on a while.
But it's getting more serious. Like, they're just starting to forget all the history of this team. It's like, all right, well, none of that matters anymore. Somebody just said we're the Cleveland Browns.
You know, it happens quickly. I mean, I think about this sometimes with younger people who follow the sport, right? That if you are as my phone for whatever reason is going off, if you're a 14-year-old football fan, I mean, and I don't think these are the people that are making this sort of list and that kind of thing. But you don't know what it's like for the Broncos to be good. I mean, it's like this faint memory of when they won the Super Bowl, right when you were like 6, 7 years old or whatever. It happens pretty quickly as time goes by. So, yeah, I kind of see it. I mean, you missed the playoffs for 6 straight years. That's another thing. In the NFL, which is geared toward pulling everybody back toward the middle, it's hard. It is hard to miss the playoffs 6 straight times like the Broncos have. I mean, who else has missed that many consecutive playoffs right now? The Jets, who've gone longer than that. I mean, even the Browns won a playoff game in 2020. The Lions, they were in the playoffs in 2016 when the Broncos missed the postseason. I mean,
but to forget the legacy, Mace, of this franchise, that's what's like crazy to me is everybody is just being like, oh, but none of it matters anymore. They're completely irrelevant. It's like, and it's mind blowing to me, the disrespect that's being thrown on the Broncos name. I mean, we saw that Colts player who was talking about Tony Jones Jr. and he's saying it ain't Denver anymore. Like that. And it's not just fans, because we know fans can get a little emotional. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. We all do too. But it's the players from other teams that are also just continuing to throw this kind of dirt on the Broncos name. Oh, are you back? Is he back? We'll give it a quick second. I do want to get into my keys to the game on Sunday, though, everybody. Number 1, running back by committee. Many people don't actually like this. I do, everybody. I'm sorry if you're not a big fan of running back by committee. Listen up. You have essentially thunder and thunder in Javonte Williams, massive, still being able to carry people on his back. You absolutely love to see it. I'm a big fan of this, okay? You have Samaje Perine, who has been great so far. He's been also this kind of like bulldozer. We'll bring back in Andrew Mason. He's been this bulldozer.
Sorry about that. Sorry,
no, you're
Rachel.
good. Mace, I'm going into my keys to the game on Sunday, and I said, I know a lot of people don't like it, but running back by committee, I'm here for it. You have thunder and thunder with Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine, and then you got lightning with McLaughlin. Absolutely, just send it. Like, let's go for it.
100%. I mean, we were joking about it on the hillside watching practice earlier this week. You're going down to Miami, where the 1972 Dolphins are the only undefeated team in the Super Bowl era. Maybe you go down there and run 72 times in honor of the 72 Dolphins. But, taking it to another level, they went 3 deep back in the day at running back with Larry Zonka, Jim Kick, Mercury Morris, and Morris was, of course, kind of the speed explosive guy. Maybe you do the same thing with Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine, and Jaleel McLaughlin having a few touches as well to try to be a breakaway threat. Maybe you do something to that extreme because I don't think the Broncos will, obviously, but to have a chance to win this game, I feel like they need to control the pace of this game, have some long possessions, keep the Dolphins' offense off the field, and also exhaust their defense. Look, Miami has trained in the heat and humidity, no doubt. These are their conditions, but if you get them out there and get some long drives, even though they are conditioned for it, if you've got that Dolphins defense starting to suck wind out there with some long drives, it will take a toll on them too. And you can just kind of keep coming at them. And with those running backs, if you balance the workload, come at them in waves. This may be the best way for the Broncos to have the best running game they can, is to not have the one workhorse back, but to keep spreading it around. Although Javonte, I thought, really had that one run where he made a guy miss and did a little leap. There are signs that it's there. It's going to come for him. But I feel like maybe the Broncos' best chance here is to use all 3 of them effectively. And get Jaleel McLaughlin out there a little bit more and have plays for him that work, like the one on the touchdown where you got Michael Burton with a block, you got Nate Atkins out there. There are some interesting things you can do from that kind of heavy package that I think the Broncos ought to explore this week.
I love running back by committee. Bring it on, everybody. That's what I want to see. People don't like Samaje Perine. I don't know if they are worried that Samaje Perine is going to take over for Javonte Williams later on down the season, but people aren't a big fan of him. Mace, I think he is a workhorse. He has shown that he can carry players an extra 2-3 yards, maybe even 5. Why else should people get on the Samaje Perine train?
because he can do everything reasonably well. Like you look at his game, Rachel, and there's not a weakness. He's excellent in space when he catches the football. He's got great hands. He has good vision, sees the holes as they open up. He is terrific when you have to keep him home in pass protection. He's got all of these things to him that when you put him out there, you're not tipping your hand as to your intent as well. Well, Joe McLaughlin, with all due respect, you're talking about a 5'8", 180, 185-pound running back, and he's got a little bit of a ways to go in pass protection. So when he's in there, teams may adjust what they're planning in terms of their pass rush a little bit. But Samaje Perine has every tool a running back should have. Okay, he doesn't have the angry runs like Javonte Williams does. And I think that's another thing. He's not Javonte. A lot of fans, understandably so, love Javonte Williams and love what he's done and want to see him get all the way back. It is remarkable that we're sitting here talking about Javonte Williams having played 2 games to this point, but he's not all the way there. The way the Broncos are using him shows that they know he's not 100% just yet. You see him a bunch early, but then you see a lot more of Samaje Perine as the game goes on. They understand that Javonte is still working all the way back. So take advantage of this as Javonte gets back to full speed. And if you spread the workload around, then maybe by the second half of the season, as Javonte continues to ramp up, he's really ready for a heavier workload if, say, you've got an injury to one of the other running backs at the position. But yeah, don't fear the RBBC. Right? Embrace it. Love it. I'm right there with you, Rachel.
Embrace it. All right. My second key to the game is the offensive line has to be better. Now, this obviously just feels like a gimme at all times. But if you look at the amount of sacks that Russell Wilson has had in week 1 and week 2, 3 total in the first half, and it's 6 in the second half for both of those games. They have to be better. I know it's going to be hot, humid. They're going to get tired. They have to protect the quarterback.
They have to, and it's got to start on the edges as well. Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey, it hasn't been good for them. Now, I chatted with Mike McGlinchey in the locker room a couple of days ago, and, he says, hey, most of the work is solid, but the thing is, when you're playing tackle, you got to pitch no hitters, right? It's sort of it's the lot in life of that position. The other thing is McGlinchey kind of talking about how he knows he has to be better and like what his kind of responsibility is with the C as a captain, the C patch on his jersey, and also with that contract. I mean, he didn't mention the contract, but it's one of those unspoken things. He knows that there is a larger onus upon him in Denver than there was with the 49ers because that contract, $17.5 million a year, Rachel, right? It tells you just what they think of how of how prominent he is in their plans. Mm-hmm. So he knows he's got to hit another level. He's had a couple of penalties last week, a holding that was declined, but he had 2 penalties that he was called for. He's allowed multiple sacks and allowed, I believe, 12 pressures so far this season. That's not going to cut it over the long term. He's got to step up on Sunday as well.
That's not worth $17 million right there, Mace.
No. He's a vet. He's a pro. I think he's going to get on track, but I also think he had that injury that he had in the preseason. He missed some time, and I think he's still kind of working his way back into the flow of things because he did miss 3 good weeks of practice time that you could gain cohesion with your teammates with that time, and I think he's still battling back.
Well, we will talk about a very important injury to this Broncos secondary here in just a second after key number 3. But it honestly kind of goes into this: attack the gaps. Kareem Jackson is going to have to have a massive game. Alex Singleton's going to have a massive game. Josie Jewell, they're all going to. This offense for Miami can go in all sorts of ways. They're going to have to be able to protect every single area of the field. And that sounds super easy, right? We're like, oh yeah, of course they have to attack the gaps. You don't always see that every given Sunday.
Right. And the genius of this scheme, and actually you could argue that what Mike McDaniel is running is actually a pure form of the Shanahan offense than even Kyle Shanahan is running in San Francisco right now. But the genius of it is that at the snap, so many plays look the same, and it makes you hesitate a little bit. And so what happens sometimes is you can attack, but then get caught out of position if it turns out to be the play fake boot action. So you've got to that striking that balance is really critical, because this offense forces you defensively to think, and sometimes in that space where you think, that's where guys are getting open, and that's where the lanes are developing. So yeah, it's tough to do, but they're probably going to have to take some calculated risks here against this offense, especially because Tua is getting the ball out so quickly as well when they do when they do drop back to pass, when they do go into play fake boot action. They cause a lot of problems. Now, that being said, if Jalen Waddle doesn't play this game, that does give Kareem Jackson, like you mentioned, more license to be aggressive, because then you can have, if it's Justin Simmons, De'Aaron Turner, Yale, they can bracket Tyreek Hill, but you're not as worried about the rest of the targets. If you take Jalen Waddle out, the next receiver on the Dolphins in terms of yardage to this point in the season is River Craycraft, a former Bronco from a few years ago, but very much a fringe former Bronco. It's honestly like when I first saw his name on the roster, I'm like, oh, wow, that's awesome that he's still in the league, right? I had to hesitate before I realized he was still in the NFL.
It's one of those names where you're like, oh, I hope they're doing well. I'm happy that they're not making a big impact when we're playing them this week. Everyone has the question, though, Mace. Is Justin Simmons going to play this weekend? And we don't know. You said injury report's going to come out later today. It's a massive. I anticipate it's going to say questionable when we see the injury report.
Yeah, but potentially, unless he's just not out there at all today, in which case they may just say out if it's 3 days of DNP. It's 2 days of DNP, and then watching him working out on the north field, it's definitely not trending in the direction of him playing. But if there's a way to just have him out there, to have him get some limited work and then just kind of keep the window open, I think that's something that you do. And maybe if you get him out there just for some limited work today, maybe you can say, okay, let's take this to game time, give him a test on Sunday morning, and we're going to see. But at the same time, you don't want to exacerbate this and make this worse. I mean, he, of course, had the injury. He played through it because he had it at the end of the first half, and he did not miss a snap, played 73 of 73 defensive snaps on Sunday. So, I mean, testament to him and his resilience that he did. But, I mean, if you watch that hit that he had on which he was injured, I mean, you could – at first, we initially thought, oh, it might be the shoulder because he kind of dropped one shoulder when he walked back. But watch that collision. You can see that there is heavy contact there coming in with the hip, and you can see how it happened. You just hope this is not something that you're talking about a month, 2 months from now as something lingering. It's can he get past it? And if it helps him to get past it, to sit him on Sunday, I think they will. I was talking with Riley Moss yesterday in the locker room, and he mentioned how they were cautious with him, that he didn't play last week, in part because they were easing him back. He's hoping to be able to go in some capacity on Sunday, make his regular season debut. But they were cautious with Jerry Jeudy. They had him tested out week 1, and they decided, okay, we're going to wait another week. They were cautious with Riley Moss. I imagine they're going to be cautious with Justin Simmons too.
I kind of feel guilty saying this, Mace, and you're going to know what I mean. Like a game is never more important than a player's overall health.
Right.
But when you look at this Broncos team, if Justin Simmons doesn't play this weekend and they're looking at the long term, does it really matter? Because the chances of them winning without him out there are pretty slim, in my personal opinion. But if they're 0-3, this season's officially almost over, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a window to get back in it because that Bears game should be winnable, even though it's in Chicago. And then you do get the Jets without Aaron Rodgers with Zach Wilson. Of course, that didn't stop the Jets from being the Broncos last year in Denver.
Yep.
But this is a Bronco team and a Bronco offense that I think actually has the firepower and capability to not get dragged into a 16-9 sludge fest, not slugfest, sludge fest, because that game was sludge, like we saw last October when the Jets came in. So the other thing also that's hanging over Justin Simmons is this: if the season does get off the rails, Justin Simmons is a prime trade candidate. I think that's obvious to everybody right now. The Broncos have sold, and this is another thing that tells you how bad the Broncos have been. They have sold a foundational player in 4 of the last 5 years at the deadline. The only year they didn't was the COVID year 2020, when, of course, what happened was players had to kind of go through quarantine, a process of getting ready. So the trade market that year was virtually non-existent at the deadline. So every year there's been a viable trade market. We've seen Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, all dealt at the deadline. It's become a sad tradition, unlike any other in Broncos country. And if this season continues, maybe not continues to slide, but if things don't get right, if we're sitting here talking about a team that is 2-5 in that range, headed to the second game with Kansas City, then you may be talking about Justin Simmons being on the trade market, and then it's incumbent upon him being healthy in order to get proper value for him. So it's kind of it's a layered answer there. It may not be the best thing on multiple levels to play Justin Simmons on Sunday.
Oh gosh. All right, Mace, real quick. Who you got on Saturday? You taking Oregon or are you taking the Buffs?
I'm taking Oregon by a couple of touchdowns.
Oh, you're playing blowout.
Well, I mean, I think what is it? It's 21 right now, right? I'll take Oregon by about 14. This is where I think the CU and what they're lacking in the trenches is going to be exposed. And along with losing Travis Hunter. And I mean, I'm down here in Florida, at my parents' house, and the player my mom wanted to talk about last night was Travis Hunter.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I mean, when we say it seems like everybody's watching the Buffs, I absolutely mean it. It's incredible. So I said, you stayed up until the end of that game, and here on the East Coast, that game ended at what, 2:50 in the morning? She said, yeah, watch the whole thing.
Shout out to your mom, Mace. That's awesome. First of all, we love seeing the pride continue on into other states out of Colorado. All right, what about on Sunday? Who you taking, the Broncos or the Dolphins?
I'm taking Miami. I think even without Jalen Waddle, they're going to keep the Broncos defense off balance. I don't think this is going to be the get well game for the Broncos defense that they need. But I think we'll see some fireworks on the offensive side, although I do wonder what Vic Fangio's cooked up. Vic very much downplayed the notion yesterday, but you know what? We've all been around. We know how it gets, deep in the recesses of your mind. He's going to have some things cooked up for Sunday. But on the other hand, the other thing that is in the Broncos' favor is a lot of guys know what Vic can do, and you've got all the players that were around for Vic Fangio that are telling guys like Marvin Mims Jr. and Brandon Johnson, the younger offensive players, hey, this is what you can expect coverage-wise. And so if Vic doesn't have anything new dialed up, I think the Broncos can exploit that. And I think we're going to be talking about another healthy offensive performance for the Broncos, where they end up, I think they'll end up with somewhere around 24 points, but lose it. I'm going to call for a close loss, 27-24.
I'm also going with a close loss for the Broncos. Unfortunately, an 0-3 start to the season. But however, although I'm rolling with Oregon, I think it's actually going to be between probably a 7-point spread. That's my guess right there. I think it's going to be closer. I think Prime's preparing this team pretty dang well, but I do think Oregon will come out on top.
Moral victory that will provide hope for SC coming into Boulder the next week. That's the thing. If you can hang with Oregon, even if it's a loss, you're still in good shape. And look, you can lose to Oregon, and everything is still on the table for the CU Buffs if they can beat SC the following week.
For sure.
So.
Mace, appreciate you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on this extra long edition of Coffee Break. It's a Friday, everybody. Lots of good football coming up this weekend. We will see you all Monday morning to break down hopefully a Broncos win and a Buffs win. We'll see everybody then. Bye, everyone.